What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you guys with another season of What's the Word Dirty Bird season two. I'm gonna jump into the chats and say what's up to you guys. We got a couple in the chat already. What's up, Joseph Thornton? He said, "What up, Jew?" YMOF Jamal, what's going on, man? Season two of What's the Word Dirty Bird. We got a lot to get into tonight. Uh, and Bubba Gump, what's going on, man? What up? So we got a lot to get into tonight. We'll be up here for about an hour from 8 to 9. We're going to do this every Wednesday night from 8 Eastern to 9 Eastern time. We're going to talk about the NFL playoffs tonight. And we're going to got a couple of other topics that we're going to get in tonight. And then, of course, we're going to do some Atlanta Falcons Q&A while I ask you guys questions, whatever questions you may have tonight as well. That'll probably be like the last 20 to 25 minutes of the show. But the first thing we're going to talk about is the NFL playoffs. We're going to jump into talking about the NFL playoffs, the 2022 playoffs. A couple things that I noticed in this playoffs so far in 2022. We had the divisional round last week, which probably was one of the best weekends of playoff football from my point of view. Each game went down to like the last drive. All of the games were extremely close. It was a lot of good games last weekend, and I definitely want to talk about that. But when I watch these games, a lot of the times what I take from the game or when I'm watching the game, because I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan, I try to see how our Atlanta Falcons could be a playoff team next year. And I try to look at the big picture of the games, of these playoff games that took place last weekend on Saturday and Sunday. The first thing that I took from the games over the weekend, first off, was the LA Rams beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We all know that the media loves Tom Brady. They got out to a big lead. The Rams got out to a big lead at halftime. I think they were up like 24-3 or something like that, or 20-3. They were really putting it on the Buccaneers. And one of the main things that I took from the game on Sunday against the Bucs and the Rams was Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is a longtime Detroit Lions quarterback. A lot of people that may not know, he's extremely close with Matt Ryan. In the offseason, they're extremely close. They hang out in the offseason. Both of them play basketball together and things of that nature. Both of those guys played basketball in high school, and both of those guys' families are really close. Their wives are really close. They vacation together and things of that nature. And I think that Matthew Stafford and Matt Ryan, to me, they're two of the most disrespected quarterbacks in the NFL. And at AFN, you know me, Mad Mike, K-Styles, we always talk about on our show, on the heavy hitter shows, what we do during the season. And anytime we go live, pretty much, we always talk about you need a team to be able to win a Super Bowl, that one person can't win a Super Bowl by themselves. And I think Matthew Stafford pretty much is proving that in this playoff run. Everybody talked about him being a stat patter, that all he did was have good stats, but he couldn't win the big game. And he's pretty much showing us that if you have the adequate pieces around you, the weapons around you, wide receivers, running backs, a good defense, a good head coach, and a good front office, he's showing us how great of a quarterback that he is. Even though he has never won a Super Bowl, even though he hadn't won any playoff games prior to going to the Rams this season, being traded for this offseason, he's basically showing us that you need weapons around you to be successful. And that's pretty much what we've been saying at AFN. That's pretty much what we've been saying on my channel since I started my channel, is it takes a team to be able to win games. And that's what we're seeing in this playoff run so far with Matthew Stafford. Another thing that I think is kind of going overlooked with Matthew Stafford as well, last year, if you guys remember, and this is why I talk about the media manipulation and how they love Tom Brady. Last season, everybody talked about Tom Brady being able to go from the Patriots to the Bucs and being with the Bucs his first season and being able to win a Super Bowl. And we're saying that if you have a decent quarterback that has weapons around you, any great quarterback or a solid quarterback can go from one team to the other if he has the adequate weapons to win. Matthew Stafford, just like Tom Brady last year, is in his first season with the LA Rams. and he's one game away from the Super Bowl. And I believe he's been in the league over a decade now, Matthew Stafford. So this just goes to show you that it's not just Tom Brady. People talk about Tom Brady being the GOAT, and only Tom Brady could have did what he did when he moved teams or went from the Patriots to the Buccaneers. Him switching teams. A lot of people act like he's the only quarterback that could actually do that. So all I want to say is this: if Matthew Stafford ends up getting to the Super Bowl and he ends up winning the Super Bowl this year, with his first year being in a new system, with his new head coach and Sean McVay being in a new offense, being in a whole new franchise, if he pulls this off and wins the Super Bowl, to me, I want the media, I want all of those Tom Brady lovers to keep that same energy. If Matthew Stafford is able to pull this off, with this being his first season with the Rams, people always talk about how great of a leader Tom Brady is. And I don't take nothing from Tom Brady. I'm not a Tom Brady hater. I do think that Tom Brady is a great quarterback, one of the greatest of all time. But at the same time, let's be real. Matthew Stafford pretty much is doing the same thing that Tom Brady did last year. And he's not getting the same media attention because he's not considered the GOAT, or he's not one of those guys in the NFL that they're actually one of those quarterbacks that they're pushing that they can actually sell. So you guys just keep an eye on that. If they're able to win this Sunday and move on to the Super Bowl, and if Matthew Stafford is able to cap off this season with a Super Bowl, I want to see if the media is going to keep that same energy and give Matthew Stafford the respect he deserves, because I believe that Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. I do think he's a solid quarterback. I just believe he's never had the adequate pieces around him, and he's never had the team around him to be able to win. So what's up, K-Styles? K-Styles in the building. What's going on, the sixth man? I seen my brother-in-law in the chat. What's going on, Darius? He says, Skol. He's a Minnesota Vikings fan. What's going on, man? And all of the ones that join me, Jonathan Bell, what's happening, man? I appreciate each and every one of you guys joining me tonight. But like I said, we're just talking about NFL playoffs. But that's the first thing that I took from last weekend's games is the media manipulation. And, they always want to wax poetic about how great Tom Brady is. Well, I believe that Matthew Stafford deserves a lot of credit for being able to do what he's done so far this year. In his first season being with the LA Rams, him catapulting that team and them being able to make it to the NFC Championship game and knocking off Tom Brady in the process. And the way that he was able to do it, to drive them down as Tom Brady came back into that game, people saying that Matthew Stafford isn't clutch. He proved last week with the game on the line. He hit Cooper Kupp on a post route and pretty much got them in the field goal range in the last 2-minute drive. And they was able to cap it off with a field goal and win, with a walk-off field goal to win that game. So that's one of the main things I took from last week's playoff game was Matthew Stafford and how great of a quarterback that he is and how he's underappreciated. Another thing that I took from this playoffs matchup, the playoff matchups from last week, is if the Atlanta Falcons want to get to a Super Bowl, if we want to get back to a Super Bowl, we're going to have to improve in the trenches. If you look at all of the teams that are in the Final Four, the Bengals, the Buccaneers, the Rams, the 49ers, all of these teams have good defensive lines and pretty solid offensive lines and solid running games. So if the Atlanta Falcons want to be able to get back into the playoffs and make a deep Super Bowl run, a push for the Super Bowl, we're going to have to improve in the trenches. What's going on, Mad Mike? Mad Mike's in the chat from AFN. Shout outs to AFN. He said, I'm here finishing the project. All right, man. What's up, man? But I appreciate, like I said, each and every one of you guys tuning in. Please hit that like button for your boy. Please share out this content as well. Like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys. Like I said, we're going to do this every Wednesday night at 8 p.m., 8 to 9 p.m. But I appreciate you guys. Also, as I was stating, like I was saying, we have to get better in the trenches. Like if the Falcons want to get back to a Super Bowl, we're going to have to get better on the offensive line, being able to protect the quarterback and being able to get after the passer. Like this year, the Atlanta Falcons were the worst team in the league when it came to being able to get sacks and getting pressure on the quarterback. I believe we had 18 sacks on the season, and where there was teams that had 50 plus sacks. If you're looking at the top 5 teams in the league. So we had teams that were able to double our sack numbers. If we want to be able to win consistently and be able to get back to a Super Bowl and possibly win a Super Bowl, we're going to have to improve the trenches. To me, that's the biggest thing that I'm noticing in these playoff teams. They're able to get pressure with the front four. Like I said, the Bengals with Trey Hendrickson, Hubbard coming off the edge, DJ Reader on the inside at that nose tackle position. They did a great job against the Tennessee Titans, getting pressure and also getting turnovers. We talked about timely stops. That's another thing that we always talk about. The Bengals was able to intercept Ryan Tannehill, 3 interceptions in that game, which was key in on the last drive of the game, coming up with that interception to get the ball back for their offense. Timely stops. In the Bills, with the Bills and the Chiefs game, it came down to which team could get a timely stop, and neither defense was able to get a timely stop. So basically, the Chiefs was able to walk away with the victory in a walk-off touchdown at the end of that game. A lot of people are talking about the rules, being able to change the rules and things of that nature. As far as the overtime rules, personally, I don't think that they necessarily need to change the rule. I feel like scoring a touchdown is really hard to do in the NFL. I believe if you have a good defense, you need to be able to at least get a stop or hold a team to a field goal. So I really don't feel too bad for the Buffalo Bills with them being able, not being able to win that game and losing that game, because their defense had an opportunity to stop Patrick Mahomes, or at least hold Patrick Mahomes to a field goal and allow Josh Allen to be able to have a chance to go down and score or match a field goal. So with that being said, personally, when it comes to the NFL rule book and the playoff, sudden death and things of that nature, if you score a touchdown, the game is over. For me, I'm fine with the rule standing the way that it is. I don't necessarily think that the league should change that rule, because you may end up like college, where you see these extremely high scoring games where the game is never ending, because the way that the Buffalo Bills and the Chiefs, that at the rate they were scoring touchdowns, who knows if either team would have been able to get a stop. And these guys can't play forever. Like, I think another thing that people are not taking into account when they talk about changing the rule is, if you're able to keep matching score for score like they do in college, those games get extremely long. And the NFL has talked about, head injuries, being able to protect these players. And the longer the game goes, the more collisions, the more injuries and things of that nature. So I definitely think that at this point, leave the rule the way that it is. I wouldn't change the playoff rule or the overtime rule. If you're a defense, it's your job to stop the opposing offense from scoring a touchdown in that scenario. So the Bills had the number 1 defense in the league. We talk about timely stops. They got to come up and make a stop. Another thing that I took from this playoffs, and I'm gonna get into some of your comments in a minute as well, if you guys are dropping some comments in. Another thing that I took from this playoffs is the NFL is in a good place right now when it comes to quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen. It's a lot of good young quarterbacks. Justin Herbert, who wasn't in the playoffs. It's a lot of young quarterbacks, good young quarterbacks in the NFL game. So if Tom Brady, who they're rumoring may retire, if he decides to walk away from the game, I think he's leaving the game in good hands. Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen has taken his game to another level. Even on the NFC side of things, you still have really good young quarterbacks, the Dak Prescotts of the world. You still have Aaron Rodgers. You still have Matt Ryan. So you still have good quarterbacks. So I think if Tom Brady decides to leave the game and pass the torch, which I think personally, I think this is a perfect time for Tom Brady possibly to pass the torch to like a Pat Mahomes, because both of those guys, if you realize, was on the Madden cover. They were saying like the baby goat and the veteran. Both of those guys, like they were saying, are the 2 goats. At this point, I think if Tom Brady were to walk away from the game, he would be leaving it in good hands. And I think, like I said, with the games that we saw over the weekend, all coming down to the last drive of the game, it pretty much shows that parity is really in the NFL at this time. And that's why I love the game of football. To me, the game of football, when you say parity, it's probably the sport with the most parity, because it's a 1-game elimination. So you just got to be better on that particular day once you get into the playoffs. And this last weekend of games in the divisional round, it proved that parity still exists in the NFL, and that all of these teams, for the most part, were evenly matched. A game that I didn't talk about a little bit, but was a really great game. And I think that this team The Falcons should kind of mirror this team. As we say, the NFL is a copycat league. The 49ers, I think, are the team that the Falcons organization should be watching and should be looking at and kind of should be trying to be a carbon copy of. If you watched how the way that the 49ers play football, good in the front four, good in the trenches, great at stopping the run, great at running the ball, and great special teams. If you've seen the way that they were able to win that game against Green Bay on Sunday, that goes to show you, even though the Green Bay Packers, personally to me, was the more talented team, I think the 49ers proved if you have solid coaching, if you have a good running game, if you're solid on special teams, you're able to win games and you're able to make a deep playoff push. And this is the reason why we always talk about Matt Ryan. You don't need a great quarterback, or you don't need the top quarterback or an elite quarterback. Even though I think that Matt Ryan is on that level with those greats, you don't have to have a great quarterback to win a Super Bowl. We've said that numerous times when we've gone live on AFN. We always talk about if you have the adequate pieces, the pieces around the quarterback, you don't have to have an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl. And that's what the 49ers are proving. So I really think because the Falcons are kind of reloading, because we're not sure if Calvin Ridley's going to come back. We lost Julio Jones, and we have a lot of guys that are free agents. Hayden Hurst is a free agent. Russell Gage is a free agent. We have all of these guys that are free agents. At this point, I think we need to try to mirror the 49ers. I really think if we build a strong defense, if we get Matt Ryan some weapons, like we already have CP, if we're able to re-sign CP, maybe bring back Russell Gage or bring back Hayden Hurst, and then bring in some more talent in the draft or in free agency, bring in a couple more running backs and bring in another wide receiver, explosive wide receiver, I really think that this Falcons team could make a deep playoff push. And the 49ers are showing us that you don't have to have the upper echelon players necessarily. If you have good coaching and if you have the adequate pieces, you have good special teams, if you have good defense, you're able to play and hang in the game with anybody. And they've proven that. They were able to knock off the Green Bay Packers, who were the number 1 seed, and they went into Lambeau to do it, which is one of the toughest places to play in inclement weather. That just goes to show you right there that if you're able to build a solid defense and you're able to run the ball and be a physical team, you'll be able to win. But with that being said, I do want to jump back into the chat and say what's up to you guys as well, because I know a couple more people have joined the chat. Noah, what's going on, man? That's another one of my bros at AFN. James, what's happening? He said, what up, Jew? He said, get a freaking quarterback. Nah, man, I'm good on that pizza. I'm good. We don't need a quarterback, man. The 49ers are showing us right now that if you have the adequate pieces around your quarterback, you don't have to have a great quarterback to win a Super Bowl. We already have a great quarterback in Atlanta. Matt Ryan's a great quarterback. Millie Mills, what's going on, man? So that's pretty much all I had to talk about as far as the playoffs. I am looking forward to these games coming up this Sunday, I believe, the NFC Championship game and AFC Championship game. Personally, I think, and this is just my early predictions, y'all will give me a chance to change my mind if I decide to change my mind later on in the week. But personally, I think the Super Bowl is going to be the Bengals. I think that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to upset the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl. And then on the NFC side of things, I think that it's going to actually be the Rams. I think the Rams are going to beat the 49ers. And I think Matthew Stafford is going to get a chance to play in his first Super Bowl. And I'm hoping that he wins it, because like I said, I think that Matthew Stafford is extremely underrated. I do think that he's a solid quarterback. I do think that he's a clutch quarterback, which he showed us on Sunday against the Buccaneers with that last touchdown drive to be able to hit Cooper Kupp with that deep pass. He shows that he has what it takes to win a Super Bowl. And it's a lot of guys on that team, on that Rams team. They're really loaded on that Rams team, and they know the 49ers extremely well. Both of those teams play in the NFC West. Both Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay are two of the younger coaches, or two of the young great coaches in the league. Both are offensive-minded coaches. So I'm looking forward to that matchup on Sunday, but I definitely think the Rams is going to come away with that victory. But I wouldn't be surprised because the 49ers, as I told you, they're a team that plays great defense. They play physical, and they have a great special team. So when you have those all the other elements, they can win this game. They pulled off a couple upsets already so far, and they're not afraid of anybody. They can go into this game and upset the Rams, but I think that the Rams are going to be the second team in a row, which will be crazy, that they're going to play the NFC Championship in LA on their home field, and then also the Super Bowl is in LA. So that would be crazy and really ironic if they were able to not only host the NFC Championship game, but host the home Super Bowl, just like Tampa Bay was able to do last year when they won the Super Bowl on their home field. So I definitely think there's a chance. And I see Mikey says, tell him, Jew, Bills literally lost because the defense couldn't close. What is a quarterback going to do for us in the win department? Exactly. That's a great point, Mike. That's a great point. Like I said, it was nothing else that Josh Allen could do. Josh Allen played his heart out, but at the end of the day, he was at the mercy of his defense, just like we seen in the Super Bowl with Matt Ryan and the Patriots. When it came down to it in 2016, Matt Ryan got us the 28-3 lead. The offense got us the lead. The defense made plays. Robert Alford, pick six. We know the story. Tom Brady was able to march back, lead the Patriots back into the game. But at the end of the game, in overtime, the Patriots won the coin toss, went right down the field. Our defense couldn't stop them and hold them to a field goal. They scored a touchdown, and that prolific 2016 offense, one of the greatest offenses of all time for our Falcons, didn't get a chance to possess the football. So that was another reason why I don't really care about the rule. We didn't hear anybody whine and complain for our Falcons in the Super Bowl, which was 4 or 5 years ago. Matt Ryan and that offense didn't get a chance, and we were in the Super Bowl, the championship game. They didn't give us a chance to possess the football. So at this point, I will lead the rules the way that they are. But I do want to get you guys' opinion about the NFC Championship game and AFC Championship game. What's y'all predictions? Who do y'all have winning? If y'all want to drop that in the chat. Ultra Shadow, what's going on, man? I appreciate you joining me tonight. He says the Chiefs versus the Rams. That would be a high-powered, two high-powered offenses going at it. That would be a really entertaining Super Bowl. And I believe a couple years ago, that was a Monday Night Football game, the Chiefs and Rams, if I'm not mistaken, where they both scored like 50 or 40-something points. The high-scoring Monday Night Football game, I think, a couple years ago. So that would be a really entertaining Super Bowl. Personally, I'm pulling for the Bengals, but Jonathan Bell says Bengals, 49ers, Bengals by 3. Hey, I wouldn't mind seeing the Bengals. As they say, who they? I like the Bengals a lot. I'm a huge fan of Jamar Chase. After watching that kid play, I fell in love with Jamar Chase out of LSU. Watching the way that he's able to catch the ball and run after catch, he's really explosive, and that dude is fearless. So him and Joe Burrow, from Joe Burrow to be under pressure, and I think that his offensive line gave up like 9 or 10 sacks in that game against Tennessee. For Joe Burrow to be able to hang in the pocket and for him to be able to come back after a torn ACL last year and to be able to lead this team to the AFC Championship game, yeah, Joe Burrow is going to be one of those guys for years to come to be one of the great quarterbacks. I'm not anointing him just yet, because he still has a lot of time ahead of him. But I definitely think that Joe Burrow is one of those ones that's going to be one of the great quarterbacks that we talk about for a really long time. For him to have the confidence, most guys, when they come back from injury, especially a torn ACL, they don't, have that trust in their knee or their leg or whatever they injured. And for Joe Burrow to be able to put on the show that he's put on, in this playoffs and this season, for him, like I said, to get sacked 9 times and not blink against the Titans, that was an impressive performance by Joe Burrow. So he's one of those guys I really enjoy watching as well. Andrew G says Rams Chiefs Super Bowl with the Chiefs win. Okay, I can see that. KC and LA, Millie Mills. I can see that as well. I said, that will be 2 high-powered offenses. I definitely think that the NFL would definitely pull for that matchup because the NFL loves high-powered offenses. I really think that the NFL want to see the Rams in the Super Bowl and want to see teams that score a lot of points. I don't think they want to see a team like the 49ers that run the football and play that gritty style of football. I think they prefer to see a team like the Rams on the AFC side, both the Bengals and the Chiefs, both of them have high-powered offenses. So either way it goes, I think it'll come down to it's going to come down to turnovers in the NFC Championship game. I really think if the 49ers special teams is able to do what they did against the Packers, and if they're able to get pressure on Matthew Stafford and cause like a couple fumbles or interceptions, I think that the 49ers could win that game if they're able to play ball control. I just don't think that they're going to be able to do it because Jimmy G makes me nervous. And I really think that the Rams are going to get out to a lead in that game. And I really think at that point, once they jump out to that lead, it's going to be hard for a team like the 49ers that only really can play one style, which is physical, run the ball, possess the football, try to keep Matthew Stafford on the sideline. They're not able to play in a shootout. If this game turns into a shootout, I think that they might get blown out by the Rams. But I think it'll be a close game, but I don't think that the Rams or the 49ers will be able to keep up with the Rams. In the AFC Championship game, the Chiefs and Bengals, that's going to be a tough one. I think the Bengals played them earlier this year, like a couple weeks ago, actually, and I think the Bengals was able to win that game. But I'm pulling for the Bengals because we've seen the Chiefs in the Super Bowl the last 2 years. Pat Mahomes already has a Super Bowl, so I would like to see Joe Burrow. I would like to see the Bengals, who haven't been in a Super Bowl in a really long time, I think since the 80s when they were doing the Icky Shuffle. I think it's been a really, really long time since the Bengals actually even been in an AFC Championship game. I think they said 1988 or something like that. So definitely pulling for the underdog in that matchup. But I'm calling Bills and I'm calling Rams. Bengals and Rams in the Super Bowl. But with that being said, we're going to jump into the next comment or the next segment, which will be Sean Payton and his retirement. Now, you guys let me know what you think in the chat about Sean Payton retiring. When I seen this, I call this bluff. When I seen it on Twitter, when the news broke that Sean Payton was retiring, I didn't believe it. Really, I felt like he's retiring from the Saints because we all know that the Saints are in cap hell right now. I believe they're like 70-something million over the cap at this point. They don't have a quarterback at this time. They do have Jameis Winston and they do have Taysom Hill, but they don't have like that legitimate franchise quarterback. And I really think that that's one of the reasons why Sean Payton decided to step away from the Saints. I do think that Sean Payton's going to coach again. I'm not too sure whether it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys because he was their offensive coordinator years ago when they had Tony Romo. And it's another rumor out there that he may be trying to get the Chicago job with the Chicago Bears because it's rumored that Sean Payton is from the Chicago area. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes up to Chicago and coaches Justin Fields. We know that Justin Fields was drafted last season for the Bears. We know that Sean Payton is one of those guys who's like an offensive guru or offensive-minded coach, and he loves being that quarterback whisperer type coach. And I definitely could see him trying to coach Chicago. I didn't realize that he was from up north, from Chicago. Like me, I'm actually from Chicago. I didn't know he was from that area. But I can see Sean Payton definitely coaching the Chicago Bears. I could really see that. It was a rumor out there. I'm not too sure why I seen the rumor. I seen something on Twitter and on something on YouTube. But they were saying, I think it was on ESPN, they were talking about he's from that area. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Payton is coaching again. I don't know if it'll be this season because that would look real shady if he, said that he was retiring, from the Saints. And then all of a sudden he's the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys or the Chicago Bears. But I do think he'll probably sit out a season, kind of like you've seen a lot of coaches do. They sit out 1 or 2 seasons and then they're coaching again. Like Urban Meyer in college, he's one of those coaches that's normally steps away for a couple years, says he's retiring, and then he ends up coming back and coaching another team. So I definitely could see Sean Payton being one of those coaches where I don't think he's done. I definitely think that, we've seen this with Dean Pease where he retired and then he was missing the game. Arthur Smith asked him to come back because he was coaching there with the Titans when him and Arthur Smith was with the Titans. And Dean Pease decided to come out of retirement because he missed the game that much. So I definitely can see Sean Payton coaching again. What do you guys think about Sean Payton? Do you think he's going to coach again? In the chat, do you guys think What team do y'all see Sean Payton coaching? Personally, I think he's either going to be coaching the Dallas Cowboys, or I think he'll probably be coaching the Chicago Bears, because they have that young nucleus and they have a young quarterback where he can bring in the guys that he wants, the weapons that he wants to kind of help Justin Fields come along, kind of develop and things of that nature. And let's see. I want to get into the chat and see what you guys are saying. Mike says he's definitely retiring because of the Saints cap. Yeah, I think exactly. You know how they say no cap? Yeah, I think he's capping. In this one, I think he's definitely capping. I definitely think that he's going to come back and eventually coach again. I don't think Sean Payton is done by any stretch of the imagination. Let's see here. He says, I think Jonathan says, I think they'll still be competitive, but he did kind of leave them in a bad situation. I agree. I don't agree with the way that he's leaving the Saints. And this is another reason why. And it seemed like every situation always ends up turning back into a Matt Ryan conversation. And I don't want to do that. But in this situation, this just goes to show you, why we shouldn't take a guy like Matt Ryan for granted. Because the Falcons last season, after Calvin Ridley walked out, basically walked away from the team due to his mental health, Julio Jones came out stating that he didn't want to play for the team anymore. The media has been pressing Matt Ryan even after the season and all season long, asking him, does he want to be in Atlanta, or does he want to go to a team to chase the Super Bowl? I have nothing but respect for a guy like Matt Ryan sticking with the team. He's a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. Like I talked about early in the show, he's right up there with Matthew Stafford. He has the stats and he has all of the accolades. Matt Ryan, arguably, like I said, is a top 5 to top 10 quarterback all time. Out of all of the generations of quarterbacks in NFL history, he's one of the probably top 10 all time. So, I definitely think that we shouldn't take Matt Ryan for granted just for the mere fact that he's not pulling the Sean Payton in this situation. And like I said, I could be wrong. Maybe Sean Payton is really retiring. Maybe he's done and he's not going to come back. But I really seriously doubt Sean Payton is done. Millie Mills said, hey, Jude, Jamar Chase had 3 touchdowns, almost 300 yards, still only won by a field goal. A win is a win, but Petty, yeah, and that's my point. Yeah, like Jamar Chase, that dude's special. Like I love watching him play. He's definitely, to me, already Jamar Chase is up there, top 10, top 15 wide receivers. That dude is special. Like for him to have, I think, over like 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, something crazy like that, coming in as a rookie and leading the Bengals in his first season and Joe Burrow's second season, those guys getting, catapulting that team to the AFC Championship game and maybe a Super Bowl, that's special. When you do things like that, you're special. Let's see here. And Noah says, I also kind of feel like it's his time to draw attention to himself because Kevin James movie. Oh Lord, I don't know what he talk about. Noah. Shout outs to the wife for the super chat. She says, great show. I appreciate the super chat. The super chats go to continue to build this channel. So I appreciate the super chat. If you guys want to donate to the channel, you can do that through the likes tab under my videos. I believe it's the thanks tab. If you guys want to super chat, I believe it's at the bottom of the live stream. You can definitely hit that super chat button. But I appreciate each and every one of you guys for just hitting the like button. Even if you don't donate, if you just hit the like button, that helps this video get out there where people can come back and watch the live stream after it's over. But I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Let's see here. Mike says he'll go where he'll have all the power. Jerry Jones won't give him power. Let's be real. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that. I don't see Jerry Jones relinquishing much power either. But at the same time, I'm not too sure because at some point, Jerry Jones, you'll think that he'll, figure out the error of his ways and relinquish some of his power. If not all of the power, he should at least relinquish some of the power. If he really wants to win a Super Bowl, I definitely think that Sean Payton could be one of those coaches with the offensive mind that Sean Payton is. I definitely think that he could possibly help the Dallas Cowboys get to a Super Bowl or at least make a deep playoff push because Sean Payton is one of those guys, unlike Mike McCarthy, which we've seen this year with the Dallas Cowboys. running a draw at the end of the game and running out of time before they could even snap the ball. That's not something that you see from Sean Payton led teams. As much as we hate the Saints and we dislike the Saints because we're Falcons fans, and those are our rivals. Sean Payton is one of those coaches who's, to me, one of the best coaches in the league. He's definitely a top 5 coach in the NFL game. So if you put Sean Payton with the Cowboys with the weapons that they have, Dak Prescott and all of those receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Mari Cooper, Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard in the backfield, Dalton Schultz, all of those guys, and then that great offensive line that the Cowboys have, and then those playmakers that they have on the defensive side of the ball. I think if they had a coach like Sean Payton this year when they lost in the playoffs, I definitely think that Sean Payton would have been able to, help those guys make a deep playoff push, because we know Sean Payton is one of the best when it comes to scheming up offensive plays and stuff like that. So that would be a nasty tandem with him in their offense. That the talent that the Cowboys had, the Saints have never had that type of talent that the Dallas Cowboys have. So I would be really, really shocked. If he went to the Cowboys, I wouldn't be shocked if they made a deep playoff push, as much as I dislike the Cowboys. Let's see here. I want to get into you guys' comments as well. My shout outs to my bro in the chat. VA, what's going on, man? I appreciate you joining me. Let's see. And Bubba Gump saying the same thing. Jerry Jones, too power hungry. And I agree. I've talked about this numerous times. Actually, my wife's a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I've talked about this numerous times. My best friend, my brother, Jay, who I had on the show, Wiz, he's actually a Cowboys fan as well. And I told them, as long as Jerry Jones is running things for the Cowboys, Jerry Jones is about making money at the end of the day. He's more about promoting the team more than he's about winning games. And until he relinquishes power and kind of does like Robert Kraft for the Patriots and Arthur Blank for our Atlanta Falcons, just step back and let the football people do what they do, and he just be the muscle as far as you put the money out there, let those guys build the team. We seen when they had Jimmy Johnson as their head coach, and he was pretty much drafting the players and pretty much doing everything for the team. We seen why Dallas in the 90s was a dynasty, because Jerry Jones, didn't have his hand in the mix. He wasn't making calls and doing radio shows and things of that nature. And, he didn't have that much control over the final 53-man roster and things of that nature. Jimmy Johnson was doing a lot of that. So I definitely think until Jerry Jones kind of steps back, they're going to be in trouble for a really long time. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be able to win. And as long as they have figureheads as their head coach and Jerry Jones in the backdrop, making all of the moves, I don't think that the Cowboys are going to be able to win the Super Bowl. But if Sean Payton were to go there, I think that they will have a good chance. Let's see here. So let's get into our last topic of the night. I think it's just Q&A. So I just want to get into, we're going to get into some fan Q&A. So you guys can drop your questions, because I don't want to be on here more than an hour. So you guys can go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. Any question you may have, it could be about the Atlanta Falcons, because I know this show mainly I've been talking about a lot of other teams, the playoffs, and talking about Sean Payton. But if you have some questions about our Falcons, you guys know that I am a Falcons YouTuber. So if you guys want to talk about the Falcons, we can do that as well. But if you had a question about the NFL playoffs or any question you may have about the draft, definitely drop your questions in the chat. I'll be happy to answer your questions as well. Let's see. And I appreciate, like I said, you guys, all 35 of you guys that's in the chat. I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. If you haven't already hit that like button, please hit that like and subscribe button for your boy. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers, so I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I don't see any questions yet. Anybody got any questions? This is fan Q&A. Okay, Matt says, do you think we will bring in a bigger body running back? We could. I think that the Falcons are going to go out and bring in multiple running backs. If I were the GM, if I were Terry Fontenot, I would go in the draft and bring in at least one running back, but maybe two running backs, maybe later on in the draft. But I definitely would bring in at least one running back Personally, I wouldn't necessarily bring in a big body running back because to me, we have a big body running back in Quadri Olson. To me, Quadri Olson is a guy that's physical. He runs downhill, north and south. We thought that Mike Davis was going to be that guy, but to be completely honest with you guys, I'll be shocked if Mike Davis comes back next year because of the season that he had, the disappointing season that he had. I don't know if Mike Davis comes back or not. Personally, I think that the Falcons need to go out and bring in more explosive back. It doesn't have to necessarily be a small back or scat back, but I think the Falcons need to go out and bring in a do-it-all running back. Personally, I prefer the running backs that are able to do it all, meaning catch the ball out of the backfield. They can run through a tackle, break tackles and stuff like that, but they're not necessarily Derrick Henry. I wouldn't mind having on a team a player like a Marshall Faulk, a player like Devontae Freeman when we had him, Tevin Coleman. James Cook is a guy in the draft that I really like. Isaiah Spiller from Texas A&M. I'm gonna do a video on him because I've been dropping different draft prospect videos on my channel. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go to my channel after this video and go check out some of the videos that I have done so far. I did a breakdown on Jordan Davis, and I did a breakdown on Treylon Burks, the wide receiver out of Arkansas. But I definitely like so far James Cook out of Georgia, the running back, and I like Isaiah Spiller. Isaiah Spiller gives me like a Alvin Kamara type. So does James Cook. He's similar to his brother Dalvin Cook that plays for the Minnesota Vikings. I want a running back like that can do it all. A Cam Akers type that plays for the Rams, fast. If he hits the hole or hits a crease, he can take it to the house. Like when we had Devontae Freeman, and a guy who you can split out wide, or a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield. I really think that that's going to be important. So not so much so a big running back. But I thank you for the question, Matt. Mad Mike with the $5 super chat. I appreciate it. Mad Mike, he says, do you think Kyle Shanahan is overusing Deebo Samuel? This is a great question. I think that he could possibly be overusing Deebo Samuel a little bit, but at this time, I kind of think that you have to ride with the horses that kind of got you there, or dance with the girl that that you brought or that brought you. I kind of feel like it's kind of that situation with a Deebo Samuel and Kyle Shanahan. At this point, you've made it this far. Even though Deebo Samuel was banged up, Deebo Samuel kind of puts me in the mind of CP for our team. Cordell Patterson, and those are kind of do-it-all guys. I do think that the 49ers need to mix it up a little bit. I know they got Elijah Mitchell as well in the backfield that they use as well, and they also use Brandon Ayuk, kind of like a running back / weapon, wide receiver. So I do think that he's kind of overusing them in the last couple weeks in the playoffs, but I think at this point, Kyle Shanahan kind of feels like he has no choice. Because to me, the 49ers, to be completely honest with everybody, they're solid with their weapons, but I don't think that their weapons are like great. I just think that they have really tough players. Like Brandon Ayuk is a really solid wide receiver. Deebo Samuel is a solid wide receiver, but I don't think these guys are like Odell Beckham, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. I don't put them in the same category as those great route runners and stuff like that. I think those guys that the 49ers just have are great athletes. Now, Brandon Ayuk did run a nice route where he broke Trayvon Diggs on the Cowboys, and he showed that he can actually run really good routes. But Deebo Samuel, I don't look at him as a route runner. I look at him kind of like in the way that we use CP. He's more just a physical athlete, can do it all. He's just a football player. He'll line up in the backfield, line up in the wildcat, line up at wide receiver. So I definitely think Deebo Samuel, Kyle Shanahan is kind of just ride his coattail at this point, because other than Deebo Samuel and Kittle, to me, those are the main guys for the 49ers. Would you like to see us trade back? And for what position would you like us to take at the top of the draft? Good question, Noah. I think that the Falcons could trade back because we need as many weapons as possible. I don't know if they should trade back though, but I think that they could. If they do decide to trade back, I think that it could be a good idea depending on what you're looking for. Like how far are you trading back? Are you trading back where you're going to have like 2 later first round picks? Are you going to trade back where you have like in the 20s in the first round, but then you have an early second round pick where it's kind of like a first round pick? Because usually in the second round at the top of the draft, there's still really good guys left over. Personally, if they trade back, I wouldn't mind that, because you guys know that I want Jordan Davis. And from my subscribers and from when I did my Jordan Davis video, a lot of people are telling me that Jordan Davis isn't a top 10 pick, or we shouldn't take a nose tackle or a 2-down player that high. I completely disagree. If you guys follow Chuck Smith, former Atlanta Falcons defensive end, a former great pass rusher for Atlanta Falcons, he basically talked about Jordan Davis. He showed a video of Jordan Davis working out, and he basically stated this is what a top 10 NFL pick looks like. Like, he basically stated or put his stamp of approval on Jordan Davis. So that's all I needed to hear. I already thought that Jordan Davis was a top pick, but with them putting with Chuck Smith agreeing with me and putting this a stamp of approval on Jordan Davis, I'm all in. Like, I'm all in on Jordan Davis. A couple years ago, Chuck Smith talked about he wanted the Falcons to take Aaron Donald. He tried to convince the Atlanta Falcons front office, or he put a stamp of approval on Aaron Donald because he worked with him, and the Falcons decided not to take him. And we see now, years later, Aaron Donald's probably the best defensive lineman or defensive player in the league all around. So we'll take that with a grain of salt, but I definitely think that Jordan Davis will be that pick. Maybe if you trade back, if a team is not willing to take him, I would take him at 8. But if we trade back, I can see maybe us taking, getting a wide receiver like Treylon Burks, and then you can bring in maybe an edge rusher or maybe a elite cornerback. Personally, if it was me, I would take Treylon Burks or Jordan Davis, and then bring in an edge rusher with that high second round pick, depending who's on the draft board, of course. Andrew G says, Drew, who is your number one favorite player in the draft this year? Would you like to see the Falcons see an Atlanta Falcons uniform, and why? I just pretty much stated it. I think it's Jordan Davis at this point, because I'm tired of the Falcons kind of getting ran through every year as far as when it comes to being able to stop the run. I really think that the main issue with our Atlanta Falcons, we always talk about the pass rush, but the first thing is being able to stop the run. If you can stop the run, you put teams in position where it's third and long, third and medium. The quarterback has to hold on to the football and allow routes to develop, and that gives the pass rushers time to get to the passer. This year, we didn't do a good job of stopping the run. So when you're not stopping the run and teams are getting 7-8 yards a clip on first and second down, you're looking at 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. At that point, really, how much time do you really have if you're an edge rusher like Dante Fowler, like Steven Means, or whoever we have out there on the edge, Ogundeji? How much time do you really have if a quarterback, all he has to do is either hand the ball off to get the 2 yards or dump it down, in the swing pass to a running back or something like that? You really don't have much time. So it starts with the foundation. First, you have to be able to stop the run. If you're not able to stop the run, that just opens up a litany of problems for your team on defense. So Jordan Davis would be the guy to answer your question, Andrew. I think that he's the number one guy I want to see in a Falcons uniform, because I think he's a tone setter. I think he'll be the Calais Campbell, any of the Fletcher Cox, the Chris Jones. If you look at the teams that's still in the playoffs, they have an elite run stuffer. Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, the Bengals, DJ Reader, they have guys that are physical in the trenches that can stop the run. The Buccaneers that was just in there, the 49ers, they have a litany of guys up front that can stop the run and also rush the passer. Jonathan Bell says, do you see us being a playoff team year 2 of Arthur's scheme? I definitely do. Depending on who we draft and depending on the way that the Falcons roster looks heading into next season, because right now it's a lot of gray area of knowing what this team is going to actually look like this season. This Atlanta Falcons team in 2022, 2023, it's going to be a totally different team. So I'm not too sure. Based off of looking at the roster right now, it's kind of hard to guarantee a playoffs. I definitely think that this team will be better in year 2. And I think we won 7 games this year, so we should be able to win anywhere between 9 and 10 games next year if we go by this, go off the progression of this year. But we always know football is a year-to-year sport, meaning the team could be completely different. You can be at the bottom of the barrel like the Cincinnati Bengals were last year, and then next year you flip it on its head, and now you're the number one team on your division. Like the Bengals won the AFC North. So who knows? But I definitely think that the Falcons have a chance because Matt Ryan usually does well in year 2. And usually, if you look at the history of our Atlanta Falcons, year 2 head coaches do well. Dan Quinn, year 2, got to a Super Bowl. Dan Reeves, second year with the Falcons, God rest his soul. He passed away a couple weeks ago. Shout out to Dan Reeves. He was able to get the Falcons to a Super Bowl in year 2 as well. So if we just go off of history, and if history does repeat itself, this could be a really good year for the Atlanta Falcons because year 2 head coaches or year 2 coordinators for our Falcons with Matt Ryan usually does really well. If you remember Kyle Shanahan when he was here, year 1 wasn't that good in 2015. Year 2 in 2016, the team kind of took off. So I definitely think that we can make the playoffs possibly, but it's too early because I haven't seen the roster. I don't know which players are coming back, and I need to see who we go out and draft. That's going to say a lot about how good this Falcons team is going to get because not only will the Falcons get better or possibly get better next year, but the teams around us in our division could possibly get better as well. In the NFC, the teams in the NFC are going to get stronger as well. So we have to see after the draft. I'll kind of go back to that question and answer it again. I also want to shout out my pops in the chat. Shout out to my parents in the chat for joining me tonight. I appreciate you guys. Brian Peoples, what's going on, man? I seen you jump in the chat earlier. I appreciate you watching, tuning in tonight. It says, how many edge rushers you think we might draft? Personally, I would at least take 2. If we can. Now, pass rushers can be classified a lot of different ways because you can have a guy that's inside, nose tackle that can actually rush the passer like Grady Jarrett. To me, Grady Jarrett's a pass rusher, even though technically they say that he's a nose tackle or 3 tech. To me, Grady Jarrett's a pass rusher, just like Aaron Donald's a pass rusher. So I'll say 2 because I think that Jordan Davis, even though he's a big guy, he's a guy that can get sacks. He can sack the quarterback from that nose position, just like Vita Vea, just like Ndamukong Suh. Those guys play on the inside, the interior of the defensive line. So I'll say if you take Jordan Davis and then an edge rusher, that's 2 pass rushers right there because Jordan Davis pretty much is a jack of all trades. But personally, I would at least take 2 in the draft. And I know a lot of people have been saying they don't want Dante Fowler back. Personally, you guys know what I say. When it comes to rushing the passer, strength in numbers, you need as many pass rushers as possible. If you look at the teams, like I said, that were in the playoffs, the Rams, they do lines changes. I mean, they got Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, Aaron Donald. They got a number of guys that can rush the passer. So I feel like the Falcons need to do the same exact thing. And that's the reason why I love the 2016 Falcons team so much. Is you had guys you could bring in off the bench just for pass rush situations. You had a Brooks Reed. You had a Adrian Claiborne. You had Vic Beasley. You had numerous guys that could rush the passer. You had Dwight Freeney. That's what you need to be successful in the NFL. You don't want to rely on just one guy. And that's the reason why even though everybody's been on Dante Fowler's neck. And, even me, I've been kind of hard on Dante Fowler. I really feel like we need more guys because we always talk about, getting rid of talent, getting rid of guys. To be honest, if anybody's going to stay out of our edge rushers, to me personally, I want it to be Dante Fowler because he led our team in sacks. Like the guys that need to go is like Steven Means, 0 sacks on the season. Brandon Copeland, 0 sacks on the season. Those are the guys you need to get rid of. Like I know a lot of times we look at the best guy because we see it seems like they're not producing, that we should get rid of them. Personally, I feel like the Falcons shouldn't get rid of Dante Fowler because right now he's our best pass rusher. Even though he's not meeting our expectations, just like Vic Beasley kind of didn't exceed our expectations. I feel like the Falcons are kind of kicking themselves for allowing Vic Beasley to walk, because now it's kind of proven that those 8 to 9 sacks that Vic Beasley was getting year in and year out wasn't as bad as it looked when he was here, because last year Dante Fowler only had 4.5 sacks. So at this point, I would take 8 to 9 sacks out of one player a season in a heartbeat. So I think you got to be careful for what we wish for at the end of the day. But I'm gonna kind of wind it down because we are at the 5 minute warning of the show. It's 8:55, and I do want to be off by 9 o'clock. But I will take a couple more questions. Let's see. And Mike made a good point. Adrian Claiborne did get hurt in 2016, and that's what I hate about that Super Bowl is we had a number of guys that was on the defensive side of the ball that if they played in that game, chances are the Falcons are Super Bowl champs. Even with the mismanagement of the clock, if a lot of people forget in that game that Desmond Trufant had got hurt early in that season, so you had a guy like Jalen Collins who they were picking on the outside, playing opposite of Robert Alford. So if you have a guy like Desmond Trufant, as much as people, talk bad about Desmond Trufant, he was a solid cornerback. If we had him as our starting cornerback in that Super Bowl with a big lead, chances are you don't give up that lead because Desmond Trufant, those guys, that front pass rush, Adrian Claiborne, the line just got tired. The defensive line got tired in that 2016 game. But if you had those guys, like we talk about Adrian Claiborne, Brooks Reed, Dwight Freeney, Jonathan Babineau, if you had all of those guys healthy in that Super Bowl, I think we actually win that game, even with the mismanagement of the clock. But a lot of guys were hurt because we know that Adrian Claiborne was good for at least a sack or two in a game. We seen that against Dallas. Let's see here. Any other questions? I'll take like 2 more questions if you got any other questions before I wind it down. Andrew G, he says, do you think the Falcons would pick Davis if he was sitting there when they picked? I don't know, to be honest with you. I really want the Falcons to take Jordan Davis. Like I said, he's one of my favorite players in this draft just because of his size, his physicality, and I feel like that's what the Falcons are missing. They need that guy up front that's going to, shut down the run and be that intimidator and be a guy that can push the pocket and collapse the pocket so that your edge rushers can get home with one-on-one situations. So I'm not too sure if they will take Davis if he's still sitting there. Personally, I hope they do, but I'm not too sure right now where Terry Fontenot's head is at, because at this point, our Falcons have so many holes, like wide receiver. There's still a question mark somewhat on the offensive line. Are you going to take an offensive lineman? There's still questions opposite of AJ Terrell because Fabian Monroe, who played opposite of AJ Terrell, is a free agent. So it's a lot of people saying like Derek Stingley is a guy we may take out of LSU, or Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati is another corner they're talking about. Then you have the safety position. Are you going to bring back Deron Harmon? Are you going to bring back a guy like Eric Harris? Or are you going to let those guys walk that were on 1-year deals? Personally, I would bring back Deron Harmon because to me, he brings that veteran leadership and he played really well. I'm not too sure about Eric Harris. I like Eric Harris a lot, but because he had that pectoral injury, I don't know that if the Falcons want to roll the dice on a 1-year deal with him. But as I always talk about, you might want to bring those guys back on 1-year deals because they already know the system. So because they know Dean Pease's system, I've talked about strength in numbers. You need depth because we know, the war of attrition in the NFL, injuries are going to happen during the season. So you may need to bring back Eric Harris and Deron Harmon for one more go round as, veteran guys. And then you still have the Jalen Hawkins that maybe can take over the starting role, and you'll have Eric Harris backing him up and playing special teams. And then the same thing with Deron Harmon. Once Richie Grant gets it down and he can be that free safety or strong safety, permanently, then maybe you have Deron Harmon and Eric Harris where you just rotate those guys in at times. The Real says, who will you pick at number 8 if you were the GM, Jew? I don't know if you just joined the show, but I appreciate you tuning in. I don't know if I actually ever seen you on, so I appreciate you joining me If you haven't, guys, already hit that subscribe button or hit that like button. Please hit that like button if you recently joined. But to answer your question, at 8, I'm taking Jordan Davis, hands down. Jordan Davis to me is a foundational player, and you need that foundational piece that can stop the run. And you need that guy up front with Grady Jarrett. We've been talking about it for a whole bunch of years now that Grady Jarrett needs somebody you can pair with him. And to me, the guy that you need to pair with him is Jordan Davis, because he immediately ends all of that double and triple teaming Grady. All of that ceases. If you get Jordan Davis with that first pick or whenever, if you get Jordan Davis, period, whether it's with the first pick or whether it's in the second round, if he's still there, if you bring in a Jordan Davis, all of the double teaming Grady, you can shut that down, because you have to double team a guy that's 6'6", 340 pounds. It's no way around it. If you don't double team Jordan Davis, he's going to get to the quarterback and he's going to get a sack. So that's going to automatically open up Grady Jarrett to get more sacks. If you go look at Grady Jarrett's numbers this last season, he had his worst season of his career, because he didn't have a lot of tackles for loss. He didn't have a lot of sacks this past season. And that's because he was double and triple team, because he didn't have any help on the inside. So to me, it's like an emergency situation. Break the glass, go get Jordan Davis, because he eliminates Grady Jarrett getting all of that attention. You have to pay Jordan Davis attention, because he gets home. He can bring that type of pressure with his size, with his length, and you have to double team that. And then you can move Grady Jarrett around, and you can possibly kick a guy like Marlon Davidson, which you guys know that I'm an Auburn Tigers fan. Marlon Davidson is a guy you can put out there at the edge. We haven't seen Marlon Davidson do that a whole lot with the Falcons, but he's a guy that you can put in a 2-point stance. If you go look at his college tape, one of the main reasons that Dan Quinn and those guys wanted Marlon Davidson, they drafted him to be a pass rusher. They didn't draft him to be a nose. But for whatever reason, last year we kind of used Davidson on the inside, Marlon Davidson next to Grady, instead of using him on the outside. So if you get a guy like Jordan Davis, where you can put him on the inside with Grady, then you can put Marlon Davidson on the outside and let him rush the passer, because he's a guy that can bull rush. And we seen last year, Dante Fowler and Ogundeji, those guys rarely bull rush. So we need a guy that can show something different and not just always speed rush. And Marlon Davidson is one of those guys that can bull rush, is a really strong guy coming off the edge. And that's what he did at Auburn when he was playing with the kid that plays with the Panthers. I can't think of his name right now, but he's a really good nose tackle as well. So I definitely think that Marlon Davidson could, slide him outside at the DN position, have him out there with Grady, Jordan Davis, and let those guys just get after the passer. But with that being said, I'm going to kind of wind it down. The real, he said, if Fowler is cheap, keep him. I completely agree. Like I said, man, Dante Fowler at the end of the day is the best edge rusher we have. Whether we like it or not, he didn't exceed our expectations, but at the end of the day, his contract is based off of the incentive. So if he don't get home, if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, this past year, Dante Fowler missed out on like $5 million or something like that, because he didn't get 11 sacks. So at the end of the day, I would keep Dante Fowler around as long as possible. We need all of the cap space we can get. And I appreciate that. Brian Peoples, he said Derek Brown. Yeah, that was the name I was looking for. I should know that because I'm a Auburn fan, but his name was slipping my mind. Yeah, Derek Brown is the guy that played with Marlon Davidson at Auburn. And he was that nose tackle. He was a guy that I actually wanted the Falcons to take, but he's a guy similar to Jordan Davis. Big, physical, and that was the reason why the Panthers had a pretty solid defense this year, is because they're solid on their defensive line with him and Brian Burns. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of wind down the show because it is after 9, and I do want to keep it to an hour so I can give you guys your night back. But I do appreciate each and every one of you guys who tuned in tonight. I will be going live every Wednesday night from 8 Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern time. So tell your friends, tell your family members to join me every Wednesday night at 8 to 9. If you guys want to chop it up, talk some Atlanta Falcons football, and just talk football in general. I'm looking forward to this NFC Championship and AFC Championship game on Sunday. You guys, like I said, My predictions is the Cincinnati Bengals and LA Rams Super Bowl. So we'll see how well I do this week. Last week, the first 2 weeks of the playoffs, I did really well. I went 3-1 in my predictions. Last week, the only team that lost that I thought was going to actually win was the Green Bay Packers. They let me down, and the 49ers was able to come away with the upset. But I do think it'll be Bengals, and I do think it'll be Rams in the Super Bowl, which will be played on the LA Rams home field. So we'll see if they'll be the second team in a row, like last year, like the Buccaneers, to play on their home field. But with that being said, I also really quick just want to talk to you guys about my Jew Talk Sports membership. If you guys want to join my membership, it's $2.99 and $4.99. So definitely go to my channel. It tells you guys what the perks are. Basically, if you do the $4.99 Jew Talk Sports membership, you'll get content control, meaning if you drop a comment in any of my videos about a video that you want me to do, I'll do with my next video. I'll do it about whatever the members are asking me to do. I'll drop a video on that particular subject. You also get, when you're in the chat, you'll have like a sticker showing that you are a member of my channel. But I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate the super chats. I appreciate the likes and you guys continued support. Like I said, we're on the road to 2,000 subscribers. This is year of 2022. So we're looking to do big things this year. But I appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Stay blessed. You guys have a great rest of your week. With that being said, I look forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday night. But as always, Falcons Nation, as I always say, rise up. Peace and love.